This is Alternative Political Analysis, and in this video, we will discuss Trump's cabinet. And first, we will analyse the Vice President, Mike Pence, who, as Governor of Indiana, signed into law the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. It was criticised for having anti-LGBTQ loopholes or lacunae, and this was criticised by college athletes and the Disciples of Christ organisation. And Pence also arose controversy for signing Indiana House Bill 1337. It banned abortion on the grounds of race, gender, and physical and mental ability. But even I, as a pro-life person, have difficulty with the clause that requires funerals for miscarriages. The people have already been through enough in that scenario, and Pence also courted controversy from he attempted to prevent Syrian refugees settling in the state of Indiana. And then we must analyse Trump's pick for Attorney General, Jeff Beauregard Sessions. He is anti-cannabis. He said he thought the Ku Klux Klan were okay until he heard they smoked pot. And the National Association for the Advancement of Coloured People and the American Civil Liberties Union were criticised by Sessions as communist-inspired, un-American people who did more harm than good by forcing civil rights down people's throats. And Sessions was alleged to have said that he wished he could decline all civil rights cases, but it also must be noted, in the interest of balance, that he signed 10 pleas against segregation, and Democratic Senator Arlen Specter called Sessions an egalitarian. This was after Specter had voted against Sessions' nomination to the Senate Judiciary Committee. And that brings us on to Dr. Ben Solomon Carson, a Yale psychology graduate, a University of Michigan medical doctorate to his name, and he was a brain surgeon at Johns Hopkins Hospital in Baltimore until 2013. He is popular with small businesses, and he called Walter Cronkite a left-wing radical, and he believes in the religious concept, the Great Disappointment. Now, the Great Disappointment is a Millerite religious belief that the world should have ended and Jesus should have came back on the 22nd of October 1844, and as we all know, he didn't, and the world didn't end. But it's not just 16.5 million Seventh-day Adventists, Carson included, that believe in this. 5 million Baha'is believe in this, and that means 21.5 million people around the world are disappointed that the world still exists, and Dr. Ben Carson among them, the Secretary for Housing in the Trump cabinet. And that brings us on to Steve Mnuchin, Goldman Sachs partner between 1994 and 2011, and made $40 million for himself in that role. Nice guy. And he worked for Sears briefly in 2002. He created Dune Capital Hedge Fund in 2004, invested in 2 Trump projects, and one of those projects led to himself being sued by Trump. Also in 2004, Mnuchin, George Soros, and John Paulson bought IndyMac at the price of $1.6 billion, and they renamed this bank OneWest, foreclosed on people's homes even if they had made necessary payments, and then they sold IndyMac OneWest for a fee of $3.4 billion. So they've made nearly $2 billion there by unjustifiably putting people out of their homes. And that brings us on to Wilbur Ross, a Wall Street investor worth $2.9 billion, a Democrat, and he's a leveraged buyer of distressed businesses. So basically he puts all businesses that are already in trouble under even more pressure so that he can buy them. And he has a Bachelor of Arts from Yale, and he has a Harvard Master's in Business Administration. And that brings us on to Elizabeth DeVos, of the Secretary of Education, charter schools advocate, and advocate of school voucher programs like the one George W. Bush presided over, No Child Left Behind, which was a dismal failure and privatised the education of the poorest working class children in America, especially from African American backgrounds, as Greg Palast outlines in Armed Man House. And DeVos's husband is also the owner of Amway. And that brings us on to Tom Price, who has a medical doctorate from Ann Arbor. He's pro-life, pro-Second Amendment, pro-traditional marriage, against the Environmental Protection Agency, and he signed Grover Norquist's pledge not to raise taxes. And that brings us on to Elaine Chao, who will be this transport secretary in Trump's cabinet. She was the Labour Secretary for George W. Bush, and she was Deputy Transport Secretary under George H.W. Bush. And to top it all off, she's Mitch McConnell's wife, so lovely person there. And this brings us on to the deplorable James Mattis, who had participated in Desert Storm, Operation Enduring Freedom in Afghanistan, and Operation Iraqi Liberation, obviously in Iraq again. And he was a General Dynamics board member, and he is pro-North Atlantic Treaty Organization, and he said that anti-war protesters were pussies. Well, I'd like to know if he has ever been in a military situation where he himself has been in a faction that is outgunned and out-armed, and the odds are overwhelmingly against him. I suspect not.